Welcome to the project. Tonight, a regular holiday turns to hell for an Aussie tourist in the US. Detained and strip searched, her warning to other travellers.
Very Ross and Rachel. It turns out it was just a break after a rocky week. The coalition's back on. So what got them over the line?
Strong and free, a powerful message from the King. We decode the language in his historic address.
Plus, the new trend between fellas that no one saw coming. Hopefully, crossing streams at the urinal is back. If not, I got to apologise to Waleed for this morning.
Oh,
Yeah, no good. I wasn't even anywhere near you. That was a big effort from you.
Points
We are
for
live
trying, though.
from the lands of the Cooler Nation. Tonight, would you please welcome Dave? Yay!
Beautiful glasses. The glasses.
Yeah, this is a network television debut for these glasses. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. So,
Fantastic.
Welcome, Professor Hughes.
Let's get into one of our top stories. And tonight, more details about Erin Patterson's alleged purchases in the days leading up to the deadly mushroom lunch, as testimony reveals a missing phone never recovered by police.
Receipts from Erin Patterson's alleged shopping trips in the days leading up to the fatal lunch shown to the court. One receipt from a local Woolworths made by an account linked to Erin Patterson, showing purchases for 1 kilogram of sliced mushrooms, 2 types of pastry and shallot onions. Just days later, more pastry and mushrooms were purchased, as well as beef eye fillets. The court also shown receipts from the day after the lunch, when Patterson claimed she was experiencing vomiting and diarrhea. One from the BP service station Patterson visited, showing purchases of chewing gum, a sandwich and a wrap, as well as a purchase from a nearby donut shop. Text messages between Erin and her mother-in-law Gail once again bringing Erin's cancer claims into the spotlight.
Hi Erin, just wondering how you got on at your appointment today. Love, Gail and Don.
Hi Gail, the appointment went okay, thanks for asking. I had a needle biopsy taken of the lump and I'm returning for an MRI next week. And we'll know more after the results of those two things.
A police detective testifying there was no evidence of these tests taking place.
When we contacted St Vincent's, they had no record of it.
The court then heard that SIM cards had been switched between 2 phones while police were conducting a search of Patterson's home. The phone police seized contained the new SIM, which had recently been connected. Senior Constable Stephen Eppingstall told the court that despite another search of the home, the other SIM, which had been in use since 2019,
Has never been located by police.
Erin Patterson has pleaded not guilty to all charges.
Erin Pearson is the Age's Crime and Justice reporter. She was in the court in Morwell again today. She's with us now. Erin, a lot of talk about Erin Patterson's phones today. What more did we learn about this missing one?
That's right. We had Stephen Eppingstall, who is the detective in charge of the homicide investigation, on the stand for day 2 today, and he was taken through by the prosecution lots of different questioning about cell tower data, mobile phones, SIM cards and this type of technology. And we heard that there was 4 different phones listed as phones of interest, essentially, as part of the investigation. 3 of them were Samsungs and 1 was a Nokia. And the prosecution allegations are, in the lead up to the lunch, in the months leading up to the lunch, 2 SIM cards were moved in and out of a number of different phones, and one of those phones, it was captured on CCTV, allegedly with Erin Patterson at Leongatha Hospital 2 days after the lunch, with a pink case, has never been found. So the detective said that they went back to her house twice. They did 2 different search warrants on the accused woman's Leongatha house, and at no stage were they able to recover one of those phones.
The court also heard about purchases made by an account linked to Erin Patterson in the days leading up to the lunch. What did we find out?
So there was a number of transactions that were made at the Leongatha, which is her local community, the Leongatha Woolworths. And the jury were taken through with the witness. A number of these transactions, I think there was about 2 or 3 of them in the days leading up to the lunch. And they went through in fine detail how they came across those. Wasn't just banking records we heard about, but it was a Woolworths reward card that tracks the exact items of purchase that detectives used to get a bit of an understanding of what had been purchased. We heard that there was lots and lots of puff pastry, lots of potatoes, lots of meat, and also lots of mushrooms on multiple different occasions that were purchased. So we saw those receipts displayed on the screen as the informant was asked to confirm, yes, is this what you found? We also heard a little bit more about the Asian grocery store, which has been brought up in the trial. We know that Erin Patterson's daughter gave evidence earlier on, and the informant was questioned today and told the jury that initially she'd said to police she didn't remember any Asian grocery shopping with her mother, but since reviewing her statement and just on the eve of the trial, she told investigators actually, in fact, she does believe that she'd gone shopping at an Asian grocery type store with her mother.
There was also more talk of Erin's medical history under cross-examination. What did the court hear?
That's right. So, as I mentioned before, day 2 of the lead detective on the stand, and we finally got to some cross-examination by the defence team. They're the lawyers that are representing Erin Patterson, and they were really asking Stephen Eppingstall about what he knew about Erin's history, and the cancer diagnosis was one of these questions that came up again, and he was asked whether or not he'd done any searches for this, and he told the jury that he'd checked the Victorian Cancer Register as part of his investigation and found Erin Patterson had no cancer diagnosis, but in cross-examination was taken through other records. And dating back to 2021, late 2021, I think it was about October, it was medical records that showed Erin Patterson had queried with her doctor and medical specialists about whether or not she may have ovarian cancer. So she'd reported a range of different symptoms, being tired, having swollen legs, these sorts of things. And they even raised whether or not in these medical records she could have MS or a heart condition. So there was a few different areas of interest that were raised today, and that's where we got to by the end of the day about those medical records.
Cold out there, Erin?
Freezing.
Yeah, thought so. Thank you for battling on for us. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
Well, in other news, and King Charles has sent a direct message on sovereignty to the US during a historic speech in Canada's Parliament. Never once mentioning Donald Trump by name, His Majesty defended Canada's independence in the face of what he called unprecedented global challenges.
Democracy, pluralism, the rule of law, self-determination and freedom are values which Canadians hold dear. The true north is indeed strong and free.
What do you think, Prof?
What do I think? I think,
Fancy.
well, the king there is saying to Donald Trump, you weren't elected to lead Canada, so here I am not elected to lead Canada. Weird.
Oh my God.
Weird.
I'm coming next week to the lecture as well. That's fantastic.
He's nailed it.
It's a fascinating tradition, though, because he doesn't write that speech.
So it gets written by the government.
The government
Canadian
writes
government.
the speech.
Yes.
This happens in the UK every year.
Yeah.
But it's only happened in Canada 70 years ago. The Queen was there 70 years ago. It hasn't happened for 70 years.
So technically we could get him to do that here?
I think we should have a crack at
But
it.
we'll probably make him do a shoey in Parliament.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
and you know what? He has to do whatever we say.
Yeah.
All right, we've got to take a break. We'll be right back. Now, time for more of today's top stories and a bombshell revelation from Deborah Lee Furness as she and Hugh Jackman finalised their divorce. She's hinted in a public statement that he may have cheated on her. Furness says her heart and compassion goes out to everyone who has traversed the traumatic journey of betrayal. She added that she learned one thing from divorce, that none of this is personal. Furness and Hugh split in September 2023.
There's still odds on that the Reserve Bank will cut interest rates again in July after data out today shows steady headline inflation for the 12 months to April. It remains at 2.4%, while underlying inflation, which is the RBA's preferred measure, edged up slightly. It rose to 2.8% last month from 2.7% in the year to March.
And retirement looks like it could be out of reach for Gen Z. A new survey's found 93% of them don't believe they'll ever be able to retire. They expect to work until they drop. 92% of millennials are also on the same page. Boomers seemingly the last generation to feel semi-confident about being able to retire. Almost 40% of Gen Z believes they'll be able to work well into their 70s.
Jeez, I don't know about this.
Why?
Why?
I
Because you
didn't
have to
know. Well,
keep
no, I've
working?
never really worked ever. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a comedian and I do this an
This
hour
is
a
work,
night,
man.
so-
This is work. We're working hard. Right?
I'm not the tax man, Hughesy. It's fine.
No, we are flat out. I never want to retire. I want to.
You love working.
I
You're always working.
do not have to be here tonight, but I'm here anyway because I love hanging out with people.
Does the concept ever retirement actually scare you a little bit?
Yes,
Yeah.
because then there's so much day to fill, you know. I'm sort of semi-retired now. I don't do radio, so I drop my kids at school and pick them up from school, and their first question when I pick them up is, "What'd you do today, Dad?"
It's the retired question.
It's
and I have to
scary.
say, nothing.
Well,
Now you got an
the
answer.
world will probably be over, you know, the way things are going,
Oh,
so it doesn't matter.
so
Anyway,
what?
no, you know. I mean,
a bunch
actually, we've
of
got a
lovely
school
young
group in. I
audiences
should have done that.
tonight.
Anyway,
No,
look, today,
brilliant
former
now.
Nationals leader Michael McCormack, he was left out of the Coalition Shadow Cabinet, which is pretty sad for him. But don't worry, you know, one door closes, another one opens, because it's given him time for his new passion. You'll like this, Husey. It's stand-up comedy.
It's a beautiful day. You two should write a song about it. Were you at that presser when the ant went down my collar? And Chris Rowe tried to flick it. I had an open neck shirt on, and he's trying to flick it, but he's flicked it down the shirt, and then I could feel this. Anyway, it was kind of awkward. Answer your hand.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Apparently, he's working on his new policy of, like, why don't they make the whole plane out of the black box?
Yeah.
Great.
Well, why don't they?
Yeah, all right. Hughes, all right.
We're off to a break. We'll see you soon.
Welcome back. Now, every year there are around 10 million overseas trips from Australia, with the US among the top destinations. But horror stories are emerging of treatment at the border, with one story so shocking it's got many asking if America's still safe.
Since Donald Trump took office, immigration has been at the top of his agenda.
We are seeing the Trump administration take aggressive steps to oversee the largest mass deportation effort in U.S. history.
We're going to pay each one a certain amount of money, and we're going to get them a beautiful flight back to where they came from.
Trump's crackdown on illegal immigrants within the country also extending to tourists trying to enter.
A backpacking trip turned nightmare.
Visitors with valid travel documents being detained at border crossings.
Next thing you know, I'm taken, and for 2 weeks haven't been told anything.
Nobody is safe there anymore to come to America as a tourist.
They're trying to deport as many people as possible, but they're also trying to refuse entry to as many people as possible. This treatment of visitors is much more aggressive than I've ever seen in my career.
Among the Aussies detained at the border, a man stripped of his valid US work visa and sent home despite not having lived here for 10 years. And the head coach of our MMA team sent to prison before being forced back to Australia.
What we're witnessing is far more dangerous and deeply alarming than simply an immigration crackdown. Trump's deportation dragnet has been incoherent and all-consuming.
And despite Trump denying tourists are being targeted,
We treat our tourists great. We're the tourism capital of the world.
people are clearly spooked. Total overseas arrivals into the US dropping almost 12% in March, with Aussie visitor numbers down 7% year on year, the largest decline since COVID.
We're seeing a huge drop in the number of people that are trying to relocate to the U.S. for work, for example, or students. If you are going to the United States and you have a lot of anxiety about traveling already, it might be good to go somewhere else at the moment.
Last week, Australian Nicolle Saroukos was trying to enter Hawaii to visit her US husband when she was thrown into federal prison, strip-searched and refused food before being sent home.
My mum kept reassuring me the whole time that nothing was going to happen to me and that everything was going to be okay.
She's now banned from ever returning.
The experience was extremely traumatic. I think throughout the whole ordeal, I was running off nothing but adrenaline and my fight or flight, but it wasn't until I landed back in Sydney that everything settled in for me and it really started to register what I actually had endured.
And Nicole's here now to tell us exactly what she did endure. Nicolle, can you take us through how you ended up being detained?
Upon my arrival in Honolulu Airport, I was questioned by one of the officers, and then shortly after, my mother and I were taken into a room. We were held there for quite some time before my mum was released, and then I was unfortunately remaining behind for further interrogation, and then that was about a 4 to 5 hour ordeal before I was taken to the federal detention centre.
Were you scared?
I would say I was terrified at the time. I didn't really know what my fate was going to be, nor did I know where they were taking me, whether I was safe. I didn't know my environment or even my rights. Nothing was read to me, unfortunately. So I had to come to my own ruling of their decision, which was based off the questions they asked me, being the amount of luggage that I had, and based off the fact that I was married to a US citizen, I'm assuming that they thought that I was going to overstay my visa.
What were they asking you before you ended up being detained?
They were just asking me very intrusive questions, like the jobs that I was exposed to whilst being a New South Wales police officer. They asked me if I had any relations to any organised crimes or gangs. They asked me about my tattoos. They insinuated that I had intel that I was taking into the country and asking me about, importation, exportation of certain drugs. So I'm assuming that that was what they were ruling their decision off.
So you end up in a federal prison. What happened once you were there?
Prior to the prison, I had a cavity search conducted on my body, and then I was put in handcuffs. I asked them if I was under arrest. They said no, and then I was taken to the facility where I was to undergo another cavity search and a strip search. I was placed in prison wear, what they put the prisoners in. I was fingerprinted, all the normal inmate processing, and then I ended up in a cell overnight until I was released the next morning.
So scary. And your husband's in the US military, so I imagine you've been to the US many times and nothing like this has ever happened before?
No, I previously obviously have visited and I never had any issues. It was pretty much a breeze the entire time. The most I think I've ever taken in customs is about 4 minutes of interrogation. This time round was a first for me. I've never experienced treatment like that in my life.
So you mentioned there were some questions about the luggage and so on, but do you have any idea what it was that tripped the wire that made them say, this is the person we're going for?
I don't know what exactly set them off. As I said, I'm just assuming at this point of what I brought, the amount of luggage I had, like my clothes, for example. They kept making comments on the amount of clothes that I had for 3.5 weeks. I had another suitcase with, my husband has a dog back in Hawaii, so I bought her a new lead and a harness, had some dog toys in there and a couple candles for his apartment. So they leaned towards the fact that I had this amount of clothes and this other stuff in my other luggage, and they kept insinuating that I was going to overstay my visa, to which then I told them, you are prematurely making an opinion based off purely what I've brought.
Well, so what are you going to do now? You're banned from going back. Your husband's in the military. What are your options now?
Well, from my understanding, I have a 10-year ban as a visitor to the United States. They told me that I can go for the green card. That was never something that I wanted to do. They even told me that if I do apply for that, there may be a high chance that I'll get declined and I will be susceptible to that treatment every single time I enter the United States. My husband and I are currently just dealing with what has happened just day by day. We don't have a plan. We don't know what the next step is. Unfortunately, it's just a very stressful situation to be in.
Nicolle, what an ordeal and what a situation you now find yourself in with your husband on the other side of the world. And I mean, God knows how often you'll be able to see him and where. And I mean, it's a horrible situation. All the best with it from here. And thanks so much for speaking to us.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we've got to take a break. We'll be right back.
It's been 13 days since Queensland teen Pheobe Bishop disappeared without a trace. Now, as the police search intensifies, Phoebe's family is speaking out, breaking their silence for the first time.
Tanika, do you know anything about Phoebe's disappearance?
The last to see missing Queensland teen Pheobe Bishop, her housemates, Tanika Kristen Bromley and James Wood.
Tanika, where's Phoebe? Tanika?
Her housemates telling police they dropped Phoebe off near Bundaberg Airport around 8:30 a.m. 13 days ago on May 15th.
Did you really drive her to the airport?
What happened to Phoebe?
Police say there is no suggestion either are involved with her disappearance. Phoebe had booked flights to visit her boyfriend in WA, except she never made it inside the airport terminal. She never boarded her flight and her luggage hasn't been found.
What kind of girl was Phoebe?
She was a really relatable person to the rest of her family and a lovely young girl, and we're trying our best to try and find her.
Tanika's car, a Hyundai SUV that police believe Phoebe was in on the way to the airport, has been seized. The house where Phoebe was living, derelict and full of rubbish, declared a crime scene.
Why were there dead dogs found on your property?
And today, after combing through thick bushland since Friday, police called off a search in Goodnight Scrub National Park, more than an hour from Bundaberg. Items of interest were found, but police believe evidence was moved before the search began.
We are still treating this as a suspicious missing person. We are speaking to a number of persons and they are providing us information.
Phoebe's last activity on TikTok, May 13th, 2 days before she vanished. The 17-year-old often posted about relationships, mental health and family.
Phoebe, we need you to come home. We need Nanny to come home. Please come home, honey, Nanny.
On April 26th, Phoebe texted her auntie Kaz Johnson, messages now revealed for the first time.
Up shit creek, but shit happens. I'm flying the out of here to see my boyfriend. If it goes to plan, I'm not coming back. I can't do shit anymore. I need to get out of this hellhole. I need to go, but chat soon.
Phoebe's aunt, Kaz Johnson, is joining us now. We've hidden her identity upon request. Kaz, Phoebe sent you those texts we just saw 4 weeks ago. How did it make you feel when you read them?
To start with, I'm like, why all of a sudden something must have happened? Why are you getting in contact now? And it was just, when I'm looking back, like she was reaching out, and because it's been so long that I've spoken to her, and she doesn't say why she actually wanted to talk. It was just strange.
So totally out of the blue, it sounds like. Were you concerned about it or just more puzzled?
More puzzled at the start, and then when the conversation got more into it, it was like something's really happening, because Kylie would never stop talking to her kids or kick her kids out, and then all of a sudden she had to get out.
Right.
She had no one to talk to, turn to, and then he got puzzled and quite worried.
So Kylie, of course, is your sister, her mum, or Phoebe's mum.
My sister.
Phoebe seemed determined in the text, at least, to get to WA. Did you believe that she was going to do that?
Yeah. When Phoebe got something in her head, she will do it. She's so determined. What I understand, that she wasn't going to come back from WA. She needed to get there. She needed to get away from everyone down here and just start fresh.
What sort of person is Phoebe? Can you tell us a bit about her?
Phoebe is loudmouth. She has to have things her way. She's really opinionated, and she doesn't beat around the bush. She says it how it is.
We understand that you and Kylie, Phoebe's mum, your sister, are currently estranged. What more can you tell us about Phoebe's life and upbringing?
Phoebe, she was always moving from Queensland to New South Wales and backwards and forwards. She was always changing schools. She had so many different stepdads in and out of her life. She never had no one that she could really speak to. And they grew up in filth. No disrespect for anyone, because I grew up in housing commission, but they lived like a typical housing commission family.
Do you think police are going to find Phoebe?
Honestly, I don't know, but I'm certain she won't be found alive. And it is sad to say, but I'm just being honest.
Why are you so certain, Kaz?
Just because they wouldn't say a homicide if it wasn't to do with foul play or debt or something else.
How are you coping with all this?
It's stressful, because I've had PTSD, and knowing that Phoebe has been another person in our family that's been let down by the family, that's been let down by the system, and she's just another child that's fallen through the cracks. Kids need to have voices. It makes my blood boil.
Here's hoping that what you suspect has happened hasn't, and this has an ending that's more positive than any of us can perhaps imagine at this point. Thanks very much for your time. We know it's a really sensitive time for you to be going through.
Thank you.
To more of today's top stories, and it's official. The Liberals and Nationals are back together. Leaders Sussan Lee and David Littleproud have struck a deal for a coalition. They've sorted out their differences over sticking points like nuclear energy and regional infrastructure. The shadow ministries have also been unveiled, but it will not include Liberal Senator Jane Hume or National Party stalwarts Barnaby Joyce and Michael McCormack. Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price has been relegated to the outer ministry after switching from the Nationals to the Liberals.
We have harnessed the talent that we need in this shadow ministry going forward.
The focus now is on Anthony Albanese and the Labor government and holding them to account.
Well, news.com.au political editor Samantha Maiden is here with the latest. Sam, was this split ever really real, or was it always just a negotiating tactic?
No, it was 100% real. I think this is more one of these situations where David Littleproud has hopped into the ute and now he's reversing at speed out of there because he got wrapped over the knuckles by all the Liberal Party and National Party elders. So I think it was 100% real and now he's 100% back.
If we were, though, to liken this to potentially a celebrity breakup and then a reconnection, who do you think would be? Who's most comparable?
Look, it's such an important question
It
because
is.
from, Elizabeth Taylor to Frida Kahlo, many people have loved, left and returned.
Yes.
But look, I think in this situation, I'm going to go with Pamela Anderson and not Tommy Lee, Rick Solomon, who she married and then divorced and then went back to Tommy Lee and then remarried again. It lasted 6 months, but I think it was a hell of a lot of fun.
I mean, it's an amazing story, but the Nats didn't go join some other party in the meantime and then come back.
Well, you don't know what they've been up to. Maybe there's secrets that you're unaware.
You followed it more closely in the building than I have.
I think it's more Thelma and Louise, where they're back in the car and they're going over the cliff.
That's very good. Hey, so Sam.
Yeah, but then maybe Sussan Lee will meet Brad Pitt. So keep going.
I don't know what this metaphor means anymore. So on the substance, there were a couple of policy issues the Nats were trying to get the Libs to commit to. It seems like the Libs have actually agreed to that. At the same time, the Liberal front bench is interesting. More moderates there, some Conservatives have been kicked out. What does all this mean in the end, you think, for the Liberals trying to re-establish themselves as a party that can actually win those city seats they lost?
Well, I think what it means is, from the Liberals' perspective, they thought that the Nationals' outrage was always confected because they were happy to agree to the things that they wanted to do. To be fair, like they haven't signed on the dotted line, for example, to build mini nuclear power plants all over Australia. They're just talking about, relaxing the moratorium. I think it will, I think ultimately, though, what you're hinting at is correct, which is it's probably going to make it a little bit tougher in the short to medium term for Sussan Lee to track to the centre because this net zero thing is now going to blow up just for a change. And so good luck. It's going to be a wild ride.
What about for Littleproud? Do you think Barnaby Joyce is going to try to roll him in the not-too-distant future?
God, I hope so. Wouldn't it be thrilling? No, I think what he's going to try and do is use a human shield to roll him, which is that Barnaby Joyce has gone behind the back of the bike sheds with Michael McCormack, who, all of these people have rolled each other at different points. They're having a filthy ciggy. They've joined up together. And I think if someone is going to challenge David Littleproud, it's more likely to be Michael McCormack.
Okay.
So watch this space. You should get him on because he never does anything off the record. He talks like a sieve and he does a mean Elvis impersonation. So maybe there's going to be a little bit of him coming back just as, star-crossed lovers do as well. Watch Michael McCormack. Anything could happen.
Oh, well, Sam's already put him on the show tonight. You're right.
It might be the most culture-heavy political interview.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Sam Maiden, thank you so much for your time. It's always so great when you're on.
I love that. Now, no matter where you are in the country, the Liberals are in chaos. Victorian MP Moira Deeming, she's on the warpath. She's trying to sue more of her Liberal colleagues. So you're going to like this. Enjoy watching them just try and deflect and scramble to avoid saying anything at all.
What do you make of Moira Deeming wanting to sue more Liberal members?
Why would I have an opinion on that?
Should the party just be paying for John Pizzuto so that all this can be buried?
Moira Deeming appears to be approaching some former leaders to pay up. Should they contribute?
Bizarre.
I'll make no comment.
No, I haven't got any comments to make about this.
Shouldn't the party be supporting John Pizzuto?
Just bizarre.
And I'll go find my phone.
Oh, yeah. That should do it, that little one. They're amateurs. If you want people not to talk to you, it's easy. 3 words. I have gastro. They stop immediately.
All right, after a break, we'll see. Welcome back, watching the project.
Now, if you knew when and where you were going to die, how would you choose to spend the last day of your life?
Are you scared?
Shitless. Scared shitless.
The final moments of a dying man. His last wish for his story to be told.
What is it, do you think, that is making you most scared?
The unknown.
Yeah.
Meeting up with my loved ones.
Yeah.
Leaving Kath behind on her own. But I know it's right because then they can all start rebuilding their lives.
I'm scared of being on my own, but I'm also relieved that Nigel's pain will be over. But I miss all the dreams and things that we had that we were going to do together. Everything we do today is the last time we do that.
I'd rather see my loved ones before the funeral, before they can see me at the funeral. But I can't see them, and for that I am grateful, especially considering how sick I am with the cancer I've got.
I've got to see literally the last breath he took and him laying there after, and as much as it's heartbreaking, it's also comforting that I've got that.
This was not the ending Kath imagined when she first met Nigel in a Pilbara pub.
My first impressions, he was larger than life and he loved people, loved socialising. I think he moved in to live with me about 3 months after we started to get to know each other, and yeah, we were planning a life together.
But life had other plans.
He rang me one day, said he couldn't park the truck, so he was going to go to the hospital and see if they could work out if he'd pulled a muscle in his neck. By the time he left the hospital that afternoon, they were pretty much 90% sure that he had cancer.
Nigel had aggressive skin cancer riddled throughout his body.
He gave me an out. He said, "You didn't sign up for this." He said, "You don't have to go through this journey." And I said, "You don't know me very well if you don't think I'm going to stand beside you." September of 2023, we'd got all the infections, all the kidney problems under control, and we went back to see our oncologist, but he thought Nigel only had about 3 months left to live.
Voluntary assisted dying, or VAD, is legal in all states and territories except the NT. So after going through an extensive screening process, Nigel was accepted. This was also when the couple met Jules.
It was actually easy once we met Jules because he was just so empathetic and just melted in with our family. So it was actually an easy journey to take with him.
How does it feel to watch someone in their last moments? I actually felt guilty. I felt guilty taking that photograph. I just wanted to put my camera away and just kind of stop right there. But I remember asking them, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure you want me to do this? We want you to do it. We want you here." And it's really important that Nigel tells his story, and I'm 100% behind him.
Jules Kingma has travelled the globe, camera in hand, capturing and sharing stories.
What draws me to people is I'm a very curious person about people and habits.
It was this curiosity which led him to his latest project.
I was listening to Andrew Denton's podcast, Better Off Dead, and I'm thinking, I really want to do something meaningful.
Jules reached out to Go Gentle, an organisation that supports and empowers those who've chosen voluntary assisted dying.
To my surprise, I was inundated with people saying, "I want to tell my story." I was amazed at people's candour. I was amazed at people's bravery and their courage to let a stranger into their house, like with a camera, someone they've never met. Sue was my first person to call, and I'll never forget. I said, "Hey, Sue, I believe that you are happy for me to come and photograph you. You know, when's a good time that I could come?" And she said, "Well, you better come tomorrow because I'm going to die on Monday."
Over the next 2.5 years, Jules was able to capture more people like Sue who wanted to go out on their terms.
I loved Simon. He was a tough bugger. Even in his worst times and in his worst hours, he was still hilarious. Mel Langton, she was sort of like that pragmatist. It wasn't the VAD that Mel couldn't come to terms with, it was saying goodbye to her children, you know, her young kids.
All of these powerful images and stories form part of Jules's finished work, The Power of Choice.
It's been terrifying because I feel such a sense of responsibility to so many people.
Tonight is the launch, where Jules and Kath reunite for the first time since Nigel's death.
I'm
so glad you're here.
Me too. I'm so glad you're here. My view on death, it's taught me that it can be a beautiful, soft, easy ending.
Those images mean the world to me. His story and his legacy will live on forever in those images. Our love story gets told forever in those images. If our story reaches and helps one person, then it's all worth it.
God, what a gift that Jules has given those people.
Well, it's great to see the people dying with dignity.
Totally.
It's a beautiful thing.
So brave as well to be willing to be vulnerable in that kind of final stage of life, to have it captured. It's amazing.
But also, I think important, like we don't talk about death. Like this is not a culture that does it.
Yeah.
And like, this sort of thing, I was going to say forces us. Actually, it facilitates it. A conversation we probably otherwise couldn't have. Like we need the assistance.
Absolutely.
There's some way to do
like
it.
that package, you start to feel more thoughts about death and emotions than you probably do. You know,
Totally. And
in
it's in thinking about that stuff and even just looking at those images, actually, that life gets its meaning.
Yeah.
But if you try to divorce the two, I don't know, you're missing a major part of it.
I watched my mother pass about 18 months ago, and it was surrounded by her loved ones and her children, grandchildren. She was 83 and she died with dignity. And yeah, it's still just beautiful moments to be with your loved ones when they get to that point.
Well, there's a comfort there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, off to a break. More projects here. Back onto the project.
All right, let's get some more news. And the latest SpaceX test flight hasn't gone to plan with another, quote, rapid unscheduled disassembly. Everything looked fine with the Starship as it powered off the launch pad, but it all went pear-shaped over the Indian Ocean. The ship did fly further than 2 previous attempts before spinning out of control and plunging into the sea.
And people are loving the wholesome new TikTok trend that sounds a little like the Waltons. Men calling their mates to wish them good night. It often catches some off guard, and it's their reaction that people are just loving.
I was just calling to wish you a good night.
I was just calling to tell you good night.
What do you mean?
No, I was just calling to tell you good night, bro. Sweet dreams.
What do you mean, good night?
I've been worried it sounds like a bit of a threat. Good night.
Yeah, like the end is coming.
Yeah.
This rules. Would you do this?
Would I do it?
Yeah, to your buddies?
Yeah, I'd have a crack at it.
Would they react like that, though?
Yeah, I reckon most of them would, because I think guys are suspicious.
Yeah,
but anyone who's nice, it's just like being a bit
behaviour.
suspicious.
I'm a real phone caller. If I'm in the car and I've got like an hour trip, I will ring. You know what? Men don't answer. I will go through 10. I will ring 10 friends, know they've looked at my name and not answered, and I'll just keep going till someone answers.
Could that be about you, though, do you think, potentially?
I'd like to not think that.
Do you know what? You know what's really sad about that?
What?
I haven't missed one call.
Yeah, I'm not on the
I've
call
not missed
list
one
either.
call from you.
But do you call people?
Yeah, I'm a phone guy. I'm not a phone good night guy.
Guys,
yeah, totally.
You are both in my rotation tomorrow.
Okay.
Answer your phone.
All right.
Call me between 6:30 and 7:30.
Okay, a little earlier on today, we spoke with Benny Blanco, the writer and producer behind some of this century's biggest hits. As you'll see, none of us wanted the interview to end.
The party don't start till I walk in.
That legendary Kesha lyric makes up just one of Benny Blanco's nearly 300 songwriting credits. Tunes that span from pop to country, hip-hop to EDM.
The first beat I made was this.
The 11-time Grammy nominee played a part in the creation of mega hits like Diamonds,
Shine bright like a diamond.
Moves Like Jagger, Love Yourself, and Castle on the Hill. Somewhere between all that, the fun-loving foodie found time to write a best-selling cookbook and release a couple of solo albums. Now Benny's released his most personal project yet, a 22-track collab with his pop star fiancée, Selena Gomez.
Would you please welcome Benny Blanco? Yes, I love a guest who claps themselves.
Yes.
Very good, Benny. Very good start. Hey, congratulations on this album. You should keep the applause going for yourself, really. You called it the secret little album that you made in your bedroom. Is that how musicians do Netflix and chill?
No, I swear it just happened. We were just like having fun. It's just like if you're like doing something for fun and then all of a sudden we have like one song, then we have 5 songs, then we have 10. And I'm like, wait, are we making an album?
But, you know, working with your partner can be, you know, kind of a complex thing. Often you kind of have to maybe be diplomatic, political often. Who wins when there's a disagreement? Do you both get your CVs out and you're like, OK, take your pick?
There was no, I swear there was no disagreement. The only disagreement we had is she was upset that there were birds outside of the window that would chirp when she recorded. And I never heard, and I didn't hear the birds. And then whenever I walked in, the birds were not happening.
Oh.
So there was, the birds were our only disagreement the entire time.
You've got to get rid of the birds, Benny. Come on, mate.
Your relationship is just absolute goals, Benny. Just how has Selena changed your life?
What do you mean? Look at me. She's the best thing that's ever happened to my life. She's my best friend. You know, they say, like, when you know, you know. Like, and I never believed that my whole life, but I actually met my best friend. Like, if we were the only people left on Earth, I would be completely fine spending every moment with nobody else in the world except her.
You've written so many massive hits and produced so many massive hits for different types of artists. How does it go? Do you write the song and then give it to an artist, or do they say, write me a song, produce me a song?
Well, a lot of the artists write the songs. So it's like you're just sitting there one day and then you guys write a song together. I mean, songs come at the most awkward times. Like my friend will be telling me like the most important story of their life. And then I'm like halfway listening, halfway writing down an idea that they said that could be a good song. Like I'm in the shower or I'm like taking a poop and it happened. Like it's like, I wish songs came when you were supposed to sit down and write them, but they just don't happen that way.
Well, Benny, it's not only your songwriting, though, and your prowess as a super producer that you've become even more famous for most recently. A lot of your EQ, I'm going to call it, your emotional intelligence, has now been held up as a goal for so many people. I'm going to say single women in particular, to be like, that is who I need. Maybe even people in relationships. That is who I need you to be.
Maybe even Georgie Tony.
Yeah, but how does that make you feel? And are you aware of that?
I wasn't aware of it until my mom sent it to me. I'm not like a big guy who's on the internet, and I don't watch any of my own interviews. But my mom was like, people like you. And I was like, okay. And then like Selena actually showed me one of them of like, she was like, oh my God, my friend just sent me this. And it was like a person like sitting down their husband and being like, you have to watch this interview full. You have to be. And then I was like getting hate from guys being like, dude, you. Like, well, now I have to be a better boyfriend. Obviously, like, listen to your partner. Don't be an idiot. Like, it's like very simple stuff.
You make a lot of people happy, and you're making your lovely, lovely woman happy as well. Benny and Selena's album, I Said I Love You First and You Said It Back, is out now. Would you please thank the wonderful Benny Blanco?
Thank you, Benny.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
mate.
You deserve
That's
your
great.
head to be this big in our studio. You're amazing.
Love it. Love your attitude.
So cool. Thank you guys so much for talking.
We can keep zooming. Do you want to?
We want it
Do you
bigger.
want it bigger than this?
Yeah, zoom in a little more.
Yeah,
okay.
get even closer to us. Yeah, there we are.
I tell you what, Benny, if you want, we can keep this on all week, and you can just look over the show as we keep
That
going.
would be if you're like the 5th host at all times.
Yeah, do me a favor. I'd like to see the next few segments.
I love looking at your gap teeth, mate. I've got gap teeth as well. So me, you, and Madonna, man. So yeah, wow.
Zoom in on his gap a little bit.
There it is.
Coming
Now
a
we're
slow
talking.
zoom for you.
I don't know
There
how,
it
but I
is.
feel like this is going to be the start of a hit song.
I think so.
Don't mind the gap. Don't mind the gap.
Don't mind the gap. Thanks again, Benny.
My plan is that's it from us tonight. Please thank Dave. Yay! Next, we'll see you at 6:30 tomorrow night. Have a good night. Bye.